Peg, our Gulf Coast toad. Now, Peg is one of the only animals that I have that is wild caught. Now, wild caught means that I caught her from out in the wild. Like the area where we live, they have like a bunch of frogs and toads, Gulf Coast toads especially, and they get ran over in the road a lot.
I like Pig. She's our first.
Yeah, Peg was actually our first.
Why do we call her Pig?
Peg was our first amphibian reptile anything. But we call her Peg because she was missing one leg when we found her, like not a whole leg, but a foot basically. She's missing a whole foot. It doesn't really stop her from getting around. Like she's grown quite a bit since we got her, and she eats very well. She jumps around. She climbs. You'll notice, however, that her skin isn't the same as the other frogs that we showed you before. Now, Peg is a toad, and the saying goes, all toads are frogs, but not all frogs are toads. So toads are indeed frogs, but in Peg's case, you see how her skin is dry looking? It's because she's a toad and she lives in foresty areas. It's around water. The area where we got her was she lived far up into the forest, but they had water accessible to her. So she can swim and stuff, but she lives most of her life on dry land.
Doesn't look like she's hungry either.
Now Peg is a trip because Peg will take actually Peg just woke up from taking like a 2-week nap. Like frogs and toads and stuff and reptiles, they do this thing called brumation, where it's like hibernation, and they can go and sleep for months at a time. Peg has, I think the longest I ever seen Peg sleep since we got her was like a month, and then she woke up to get some food. But yeah, they brumate. So sometimes brumation goes for a long time. Like some of our snakes brumate a little bit longer than Peg would. So that's pretty cool. But as you can see, her colors are look like wood, because even when we found her, she was underneath a wood. Now, I wouldn't recommend wild catching everything under the sun, but most of the toads, like American toads that people have, are wild caught. So they don't really sell them in the pet trade too many. Like you won't see them at pet stores and stuff like that. Most of the American toads and Gulf Coast toads and things like that are wild caught. But she's the only wild caught creature we have. Everything else is, to our knowledge, captive bred. But
she reminds me of a lizard. I don't know why.
Well, it's because you see she got like the little spiky spikes coming out her back, and her color is brown and dark brown and black. And yeah, she kind of comes off as like a lizard, but Peg is a definite frog. It just goes to show, like turtles and tortoises. Like some turtles you see swimming in the water, and you'll see some tortoises, all tortoises walking around on land. But tortoises are also turtles, just like toads are also frogs. But yeah, Peg is our first. She was the first one we ever got. She eats earthworms, superworms. She same thing as the other frogs. She'll eat whatever she can put in her mouth. But unlike the other frogs, she don't have teeth. Both of those two frogs that I showed you before will bite people. Like a Pac-Man frog can bite people, and they have little teeth-like protrusions at the bottom of their mouth. And that pixie frog definitely can bite. But I picked them both up, and they never tried to lunge at me or anything.